Hello, everyone. Ex-Wallkill Bethelite here, coming to you live from the bunker in Serenity's basement. Literally, I'm in Serenity's basement. And I want to talk to you through the bunker in Serenity's basement and explain to you the deception amongst Jehovah's Witnesses in how they avoid scandal, how they avoid large-scale scandals. Because as we know, Jehovah's Witnesses are known for and very active in shunning or disfellowshipping. So one would ask, well, if every time someone does something unscriptural and it is brought to light, how then do they avoid scandal? If everybody knows when somebody sins or does a major wrong. I'll show you how they have things set up to make it look like they're trying to keep the organization clean while at the same time trying to hide major scandals. So the scripture Jehovah's Witnesses sometimes use for shunning is, I believe, 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 9 through 13, where it says, Paul also addresses church discipline. I wrote to you in my letter not to associate with sexually immoral people, not at all meaning the people of this world who are immoral, or the greedy and swindlers or idolaters. In that case, you would have to leave this world. But now I am writing to you that you must not associate with anyone who claims to be a brother or sister, but is sexually immoral or greedy, an idolater or slanderer, a drunkard or swindler. Do not even eat with such people. What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? Are you not to judge those inside? God will judge those outside. Expel the wicked person from among you. So basically, Jehovah's Witnesses use this scripture to use disfellowshipping. And this disfellowshipping, when you hear someone being announced from the platform at a meeting saying this person is disfellowshipped from the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, it makes it look like the congregation is being kept clean. But this is a deception. Here, let me find another scripture. Because if that scripture is being applied to the rank and file, but that scripture or scriptures like it that involve elders, ministerial servants, the governing body, so on and so forth. If the scriptures that refer to the standards set for leadership, if those are not followed, oftentimes Jehovah's Witnesses try to hide it. See, they'll disfellowship someone who is a lowly rank and file member all day long. But what of the leadership? See, this is where your scandals normally come in. Your scandals from another church would be their pastor or a deacon, right? So your scandals within Jehovah's Witnesses would be a governing body member, an elder, or a ministerial servant. Let's look at a scripture that has standards for them, right? Because keep in mind, the way Watchtower tricks people into making it look like they keep the congregation clean is by enforcing standards on rank and file, right? But what about elders? Now let's look at 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 2 through 7. It says, "Now the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife." Now let's just stop there, because my stepdad is an elder, I believe, at the Central Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. And if he's on his third wife, how is he an elder? Right? It says, "Now the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife." We haven't even gotten into the meat of the scripture. We just got through the first, it's not even sentence, the first comma. And already I know an elder who's on his third wife. So how was he faithful to his wife when he's on his third one? If they're making people elders who are not faithful to their wives, well, that's a scandal. That's major, because you're talking about the leadership. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses completely ignore that a good number of their elders, a good number of their leadership don't meet scriptural qualifications to have the position that they have. That's how you avoid scandal. You would just ignore that your elders don't meet the qualifications while you destroy the families of the rank and file all day long. Right? As long as they're not an elder, right? Or you let more slide with elders and ministerial servants and governing body than what you would a rank and file member. A rank and file, they'll shun them in a second for anything. Jehovah's Witnesses will shun someone just because they haven't seen them at a meeting in a while. They may not have seen this person cheat on their wife or indulge in over drinking or any sexual immorality. They may have just not seen them at the hall in a while, and they'll go right ahead to shunning. Jehovah's Witnesses practice only part of the Bible. They practice the shunning and the destroying of families while avoiding scandal by trying not to find fault with their leadership. They're not allowed to talk about the governing body, or they'll get kicked out of the organization. Well, how do you hold your leadership to the scriptures in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 2 through 7, if you ain't allowed to point out the wrongdoings? If you're not allowed to hold them accountable, if just speaking out against the wrongs in the organization is frowned upon by Watchtower. Why is that? Because obviously Watchtower wants to keep the wrongdoings of elders and governing body members and the organization, the hierarchy of it, secret. They don't want scandals getting out. So while it's perfectly okay to point out all the wrongdoings of the rank and file, there are scriptures with standards for overseers, elders, right? And governing body members. They don't want those things pointed out. They want to keep quiet what is going on in the hierarchy of the organization, while at the same time being hypocrites and pointing out every little thing a rank and file member does. Let's continue the scripture. Now the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife, not on his third wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable. How hospitable is a person who barely keeps in contact with the people who grew up in the same household? Like, so for example, if the person had kids and the minute they turn 18, they don't speak to them hardly ever anymore, check on them or anything, that's hospitable? You show hospitality towards people who aren't even family members. So how is a person hospitable if they don't even show that type of hospitality to people who are in the same household? Right? Because again, my stepdad, from what my older sister, which is his daughter, my older sister's name is Andrea, his daughter says he don't even respond to texts half the time. Or she sent him text messages, he don't even respond to them. Right? He don't even speak to her, let alone check on her, and to my knowledge, to her kids. So that's not a very hospitable person, but yet they're an elder. This is how they keep scandals quiet, by not talking about or pointing out what the elders do. They don't hold the elders accountable for what the scripture says the standard is. They only hold the rank and file accountable so that they can get up on a platform and make it look like they're keeping everything in order. They're keeping sin in check. They're keeping the organization clean. No, that only applies to rank and file, because I can't even get through the scripture. And I'm running into so many different things that elders I know don't live up to. Okay, let's continue. Hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness. Now, you have governing body members that probably cannot even uphold this standard, let alone elders. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses would be quick to stand up on a platform and announce to the world if a rank and file member did something wrong. But Tony Morris, he got removed from the governing body, and I think all they did was post it on the website in the news section for like maybe a day, if that, and then quickly remove it. And they won't tell anybody the reason why they removed Tony Morris. Why is it that they don't hold elders and the leadership to the standards in the scriptures, but they hold the rank and file to the shunning standard? They don't hold the governing body members. They're not going to stand up on a stage and announce all of that. They could have easily announced on the broadcast that Tony Morris was no longer a governing body member. No, they just want to quickly post a little, I don't even know if it was a sentence, in jw.org, and then remove it as quickly as possible. Jehovah's Witnesses try to hide scandal when it comes to the leadership, when it comes to governing body members. right? That's the whole deception. To make you think an organization is clean is because they keep on disciplining the rank and file. Right? They keep on disciplining the rank and file, but there are elders that they don't hold to scriptural standards. Not given to drunkenness, Tony Morris. Not violent, but gentle. Not quarrelsome. Again, how many elders don't even get along with their own family members? Some of it is shunning. Some of them is they just can't even get along with their own family members because they're quarrelsome. They find reason for contention with other people in their families. Now, not a lover of money. There are a lot of elders in well-to-do areas that have amassed quite a bit of money. He must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him. And he must do so in a manner worthy of full respect. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church, or Jehovah's Witnesses would say congregation? So again, it keeps going back to the family, managing his own family well. Well, what if he's on his third family because he screwed up two of them? Again, my stepdad, who was an elder at Central, would be quick to point out a wrong if he thought it was me doing the wrong. Or his daughter, Andrea, doing the wrong, or what he feels is wrong. He'd be quick to point those things out and not speak to us for decades. But if it's something that he has completely dropped the ball on, well, they don't want those things to be brought out. They completely want to avoid holding the elders and people that are in the hierarchy accountable. Because if they did, then you would constantly hear elders being removed. Now, Watchtower knows that that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good to keep on having to remove elders and remove governing body members, right? Because that's scandal. That's your leadership. That makes it look like Watchtower isn't better than everybody else, which is what they like to portray. See? So Watchtower wants to avoid, if possible, any information about Tony Morris, the governing body member that was removed. They want to avoid any of that information getting out about what he did, what he was involved with. They want to avoid removing elders, or in this case, not appointing people that should have never been appointed to begin with, right? You're on your third family, right? I mean, how in the world? How in the world are you a husband of one wife if you're on your third? How in the world are you managing your family well if you on your third because you screwed up two of them? It says he must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. He must also have a good reputation with outsiders, so that he will not fall into disgrace and into the devil's trap. Now, the vast majority of this, I don't believe that my stepdad would qualify. right? A good reputation with outsiders. There were so many situations with me growing up, and, you know, it would appear to me that he's flirting with somebody in the family, cousins and whatnot. That stuff had been going on for so long. How is this a person with a good reputation with outsiders? Well, the only reason that person would have a good reputation with outsiders is if all that information was kept hidden, kept secret. Don't talk about it, right? Only talk about the rank and file. Only talk about what they do. Don't criticize the organization. Jehovah's Witness, this is how they avoid scandal. I have a younger sister that I have not spoken to in I don't know how long. The last conversation we had, I think what she was upset about was me speaking critically about the organization. How do you hold the organization accountable for maintaining scriptural standards if you ain't allowed to talk about it? They don't hold the organization to high scriptural standards. What they do is try to avoid talking about anything negative. Just don't talk about it. But they'll talk about things negative in regards to the rank and file all day long. Elders will get together and have a judicial hearing and point out wrongs by the rank and file all day long. They don't avoid pointing out wrongdoing. Or they don't avoid talking about something negative. If it's someone else's church, right? They'll call it Babylon the Great. They'll call it all kinds of different things. They'll call people worldly. They'll say something negative about everybody else. But if someone says something negative or points out something about the organization, instead of working to make it better, they try to shun the person. They try to avoid the conversation. Jehovah's Witnesses, as of right now, today, when I'm making this video, this is pretty much all of them. They are almost all guilty of applying scripture about not associating with a brother if he does so on and so forth. So there's obviously people who are being kept accountable who are rank and file, but they don't talk about anything negative about the leadership. Well, who in the world is holding the leadership accountable? You think they're just going to be, you could just trust them to point out all their own wrongs? It's a possibility. The only reason Tony Morris was ever removed was because there's video of him in the liquor store buying large amounts of alcohol on top of who knows what all else may have happened. The video on top of who knows what all else may be the only reason why they removed him. But the problem is the video with that alcohol came out a long time before they removed him. So you can't trust a person's hierarchy to just do the right thing if no one is there to hold them accountable. If the rank and file can't say, well, wait a minute, you disfellowshipped me, you put me on reproof, you did all these things to watch what I did, but I got a video of Tony Morris in the liquor store buying all kinds of liquor and I want to know what's going on. None of them would do that. That's how they avoid scandal. The governing body members could be doing who knows what. And the Jehovah's Witnesses, the people under them, would all avoid talking about anything negative or looking for anything negative. Or if something negative was found, they would try to shun the person who found it. To avoid and try to cover up and keep quiet scandals in the congregation. So, my older sister, from my understanding, she's only been married once. And my stepdad, who was a Jehovah's Witness and an elder, has been married like 3 times. And according to what she's telling me, he doesn't talk to her. He hadn't talked to her in a long time. And she sent a text and he didn't respond. And that shows the gross misapplication of Scripture. Where if you on your 3rd wife, how in the world are you judging somebody and shunning somebody who ain't been married but once? If you done mess through 2 families and then on your 3rd, how are you judging somebody who ain't messed through 1? Jehovah's Witnesses don't hold their leadership accountable because they're not allowed to. Watchtower doesn't want them to, obviously, because Watchtower wants to look good. How do you look good? If you're a Christian, you're supposed to look good by following Bible standards. That's not what Watchtower does. Watchtower looks good by keeping the rank and file, the regular publisher, the people in the congregation, keep them from talking about what's going on with elders and governing body members and situations that may occur at Bethel. I served at Bethel, and I know very well that when I came back from Bethel and spoke freely about the things that went on, whether positive or negative, if it was something negative, the Jehovah's Witness, through training, would stop the conversation, avoid speaking to me about the matter, and even try to avoid me because they're trying to avoid scandals by not talking about it, keeping it hush-hush. So the churches that they call worldly, you actually have to give those churches credit for ousting pastors, pointing out things with pastors or deacons when wrongdoing occurs or there's a scandal. It's a scandal because the information got out. The Jehovah's Witnesses avoid the scandals by keeping it quiet, keeping it swept under the rug, not talking about it. Don't talk about nothing negative. So which one is better? If a pastor does something, pointing it out, getting rid of that pastor, now there's a big scandal, but at least you got somebody new in. Or the Jehovah's Witnesses, keeping things quiet, not talking about nothing negative, if it's the leadership, and trying to, under the radar, get rid of governing body members like Tony Morris without putting out any information about what he did, how serious it was, or what happened at all. Right? Try to keep as much quiet as possible, and then removing it from the website as soon as possible. Right? That secrecy, that's not Christian. So this is where Jehovah's Witnesses completely fail, and they are completely hypocrites by shunning and disfellowshipping people while avoiding talking about anything negative about the leadership. 937-789-4029. We'll discuss it. X Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.